Ok, buenas noches. Es un honor estar aquí el día de hoy, señor Fausto Ponce, un servidor Sergio Zurita. Estamos muy honrados de estar con Irvine Welsh el día de hoy. Hoy comimos con él, es una experiencia. Es una experiencia.
Pues sí, en su cara. Fíjate.
Exactamente.
En su cara. Sí.
Respecto a Irvine Welsh, el periódico Sunday Times de Chicago y Miami ha escrito: Welsh escribe con una habilidad, ingenio y compasión que resultan en genio. Él es lo mejor que le ha pasado a la literatura británica en años, dice el Sunday Times. Respecto a Irvine Welsh, también lo acompaña, porque como en cualquier concierto de rock, y esto es un concierto de rock, lo acompaña su amigo, Dios mío,
Bill Hillman.
Su amigo Bill Hillman. Bill Hillman va a leer un fragmento primero de su novela El viejo vecindario. Después Irvine Welsh va a leer un fragmento de Skag Boys. Después tendremos una charla entre todos. Así que, damas y caballeros, Bill Hillman y Irvine Welsh.
Hello.
Bien.
Hola. Hola.
¿Dónde está nuestro traductor? Where is our translator? Ahí está. Ok. Bien, mientras tanto, Adán, nuestro traductor. Bien, primero empezaremos con la lectura de un fragmento de El viejo vecindario, novela de Bill, próximamente publicada, se publicará próximamente en México. Eso lo vamos a hacer, él va a leer un fragmento en inglés, luego yo leo un fragmento en español, en braille, porque estoy ciego, pero lo vamos a lograr. Así que vamos. Ok, me voy a poner acá atrás, porque acá se ve mejor. Muy bien, comenzamos con esto. Cuando quieras, mi querido Bill.
The gunshot was abrupt. It sent a torrent of reactions through the mass of people. Some of the hoods dove under the folding tables. Father McHale smirked and jammed both his index fingers in his ears like it was a firecracker. None of them seemed to know which direction it had come from. I saw it, though, the fire from the barrel. I watched little Pat run and jump the beer garden fence in the direction of the tall, skinny Assyrian kid who held the pistol to his leg. A thin line of gray smoke leaked from the barrel and slithered up his wrist.
El disparo fue abrupto. Desató un torrente de acción entre la multitud. Algunos de los maleantes se metieron debajo de las mesas plegables. El padre McHale mostró su sonrisa burlona y se metió los dedos en los oídos, como si se tratara de un petardo. Nadie parecía saber de dónde se originó el disparo, pero yo lo vi, el destello del cañón. Vi que Pat corrió y brincó la verja del jardín de cervezas en dirección del alto y flaco muchacho asirio que aguantaba la pistola junto a su pierna. Una tira de humo grisáceo se escapaba del cañón y subía por su brazo.
The confusion continued as the Assyrian sprinted down the alley with Lil Pat and Mickey giving chase close behind. Ryan and I darted after them as they ran down the alley and turned right. A wild, menacing laughter erupted from Lil Pat and Mickey. I glanced at Ryan sprinting beside me. He looked as scared as I felt. We ran as fast as we could, but they pulled away from us as we turned at the T in the alley. Their shoes clapped the pavement as my Jordans slipped on the dusty, pebble-ridden concrete.
La confusión perduró mientras el asirio se escabullía a la carrera por el callejón con Pat y Mickey siguiéndolo de cerca. Ryan y yo los seguimos por el callejón y cuando doblaron a la derecha, Pat y Mickey explotaron en una risa loca y amenazante. Ryan me seguía de cerca. Vi en él el miedo que yo sentía. Corríamos lo más rápido que podíamos, pero se nos escaparon cuando doblamos en la intersección en forma de T que hay en el callejón. Sus zapatos azotaban el concreto, mientras que mis Jordans resbalaban en el pedregal reseco del camino.
They sprinted across Ashland Avenue and through the Jewel parking lot. Ryan and I crossed Ashland. A rusty pickup truck honked its horn as we cut in front of it. My heart banged in my ears. Across the half-empty parking lot, the Assyrian disappeared through the front door of the pharmacy with little Pat and Mickey close behind. Their laughter rose to high hilarity. As we approached the pharmacy, I heard the screams from inside, but no gunshot.
Cruzaron la avenida Ashland y el estacionamiento del Jewel. Ryan y yo cruzamos Ashland. Una camioneta mohosa sonó el claxon cuando cruzamos frente a ella. Mi corazón retumbaba en mis oídos. Al otro lado del estacionamiento medio vacío, el asirio se desapareció tras la entrada de la farmacia, mientras que Pat y Mickey lo seguían de cerca, aún riéndose como unos dementes. Cuando nos acercamos a la farmacia, escuché los gritos adentro, pero ningún disparo.
We stood there at the open door as the neon green light from the sign in the window poured out and stained the sidewalk at our feet. We peered in at the long rows of shelving units that ran back to the counter. There wasn't a soul in sight, just the screams and the deep leaden crunching. Then the sound dampened and the laughter still. The laughter plummeted to a bubbling demonic gurgle. There was a blur of motion. Ryan grabbed my arm and pulled me toward another doorway. We crammed in and pressed our backs to the glass door. Little Pat emerged from the drugstore with Mickey right behind them. Their laughter fizzled to a popping giggle. Their hands were red as butchers to the forearms, and there was a bulge in Little Pat's blood-speckled waistband. As they jogged out, Little Pat's shirt rose above his belt, and I saw the wet wooden pistol grip. They glanced up and down Clark Street, wild-eyed, then hung a left and disappeared into the darkness of the side street.
Nos paramos ante las puertas abiertas mientras que la luz verde neón del letrero en la ventana se derramaba a nuestros pies. Nos asomamos por las largas filas de estantes que llegaban hasta el mostrador, pero no se veía ni un alma. Solo gritos y un profundo pero pesado crujir. Entonces el ruido se disipó. La risa reverberaba. Vi brochazos de movimiento y Ryan me aló por el brazo hacia otra puerta. Nos metimos y nos recostamos contra el duro cristal de la puerta. Pat salió del dispensario riendo y acompañado de Mickey. Tenían los antebrazos manchados de rojo como los carniceros, y Pat tenía un bulto en la cintura ensangrentada. Mientras salían corriendo, la playera de Pat se subió y pude ver el mango de madera de la pistola. Mientras a ambos lados de la calle Clark, con los ojos desorbitados, miraron a ambos lados de la calle Clark, con los ojos desorbitados, y se perdieron por una bocacalle a la siniestra.
The screaming continued inside. It was a woman's voice, and it was the only voice that could be heard. There was a quick panting between each scream. I listened as I hid there with Ryan beside me. Our chests heaved. The patter of Little Pat and Mickey's footsteps dissipated. We entered the drugstore wordless. The woman screamed like she was falling into an endless black abyss. It rang in my ears. Trembling, we walked towards it. I saw the dark red puddle on the floor, slowly expanding like a shadow across the green-gray tiles. I walked closer to the puddle's edge, where I saw the young man motionless, eyes still open.
La gritería continuaba adentro. Era una voz de mujer, y era la única voz que se escuchaba. Se escuchaban jadeos entre cada grito, mientras me escondía con Ryan a mi lado. Nuestros pechos se inflaban. Los pasos de Pat y Mickey se dejaron de oír. Entramos a la farmacia en silencio. La mujer seguía gritando a todo pulmón y me dolían los oídos. Caminamos temblorosos hacia los gritos. Observé cómo el charco de sangre crecía sobre las baldosas verdes y grises como una sombra. Me acerqué a sus orillas y vi el cuerpo inerte del muchacho. Tenía los ojos abiertos todavía.
A deep crack above his eye ran up his forehead into his hair. Thick blood oozed slow from the wound, wetting his frizzy black hair. His bottom jaw hung open and was cocked to the side of his narrow, dark face like it had been dislodged from its hinge. The woman screamed deeper into the abyss, crumbled on the ground with the phone trembling in her hand. Her torso shook terribly. The puddle enveloped her legs and soaked the underside of her brown nylons. I looked at them in silent mourning for the young man and for something I hadn't words for. We slipped out of the store as the others poured in through the doorway.
Una grieta profunda se abría sobre sus ojos y se perdía en el cuero cabelludo. La sangre brotaba espesa de la herida, lentamente, humedeciendo su oscuro pelo rizo. La mandíbula inferior colgaba abierta hacia el lado del estrecho semblante como si se hubiera dislocado de sus goznes. La mujer continuaba gritando, hecha un amasijo sobre el suelo con el teléfono temblando todavía en la mano. Su cuerpo se estremecía violentamente. El charco empapaba sus piernas y mojaba la parte inferior de sus medias de nylon color marrón. Los contemplé en silencio, lamentándome por el joven muchacho y por algo más a lo que no le encontraba palabras. Nos fuimos de la farmacia mientras otros entraban apurados.
We walked towards home in the quiet, our heads hung, the weight of it all around us. The air was thick and the carnival roared on in the distance. The sounds of the children's joyous screams rose and fell, but I had no urge to return. We walked down Clark to Hollywood Ave where the yellow sign of the corner store glowed stale and flickered. We stood under it a while. You think they're going to get caught up? I asked. Nah, ain't nobody going to rat them out. Shit, he was dead, wasn't he?
Caminamos a casa en silencio, cabizbajos, el peso de todo lo acontecido a nuestro alrededor. El aire ahora nos pesaba y el carnaval bullía en la distancia. El ruido de la muchachería subía y bajaba, pero no tenía ganas de regresar al carnaval. Bajamos por la calle Clark hasta la avenida Hollywood, donde había una bodega que tenía un letrero amarillo que brillaba y parpadeaba. Nos quedamos parados debajo del letrero un rato. ¿Piensas que lo atraparán a la larga?, pregunté. No, nadie los va a chotear, nadie les va a delatar, exactamente. No, nadie los va a delatar. Qué jodienda, el tipo estaba muerto de verdad.
Ryan didn't answer. We walked down Clark and crossed Ashton with the sirens floating in the air. Ryan went his way to the north and I went home. I went up to my room and sat on my bed a while in the dark as the orange yellow of the street light seeped in through the window. I thought about God. I thought about heaven, if little Pat could ever go there now. I wondered if I could go there now that I knew what I knew and was never going to tell. I held my crucifix and prayed to Jesus that he wasn't dead. After the others had gone to sleep, I went downstairs to the TV room and watched the reports of the murder, and that was the birth of Pistol Pat.
Ryan se quedó callado. Caminamos más y cruzamos la Ashland mientras las sirenas se esparcían por el aire. Ryan se fue hacia el norte y yo me fui a casa. Subí a mi cuarto y me senté al borde de la cama un rato, mirando la luz de los postes derramar el amarillo anaranjado por las ventanas. Pensé en Dios y pensé en el cielo, preguntándome si Pat podría subir a él después de esto. Me cuestioné si yo podía ir al cielo luego de ver lo que vi y de no decir nada tampoco, nunca. Apreté mi crucifijo y recé a nombre de Jesús, rogándole que no estuviera muerto. Cuando los demás se acostaron, bajé al cuarto de la televisión y miré los reportes de la matanza. Y así fue que nació Pistola Pat. Bill Hillman. Muy bien, ahora Irvine Welsh leerá un fragmento de su novela Skag Boys, la más reciente traducida al español. Tiene otra que ya está publicada en inglés y una más que está por publicar, pero por lo pronto un fragmento de Skag Boys.
I'll stand up, actually. This is just at the very start of the book, Skag Boys, and it's about the character Mark Renton, who is sleeping in his grandmother's house in Glasgow. Even the plank stiffness of this old, unyielding settee can't arrest my body's incremental slink into seraphic deliverance. It evokes my time at the university residences in Aberdeen, lying in the dark, basking in exalted freedom from the unbending fear that coalesced in my chest, like the thick phlegm did in his. Because whatever I hear outside, cars scrunching down the narrow council house streets, sometimes sweeping their headlights across this fusty old room, drunks challenging or serenading the world, or the rending shrieks of cats taking their torturous pleasures. I know that I won't hear that noise. No coughing, no screaming, no thumping sound. Doof, doof, doof. None of the urgent raised whispers, which, by their panic levels, enable you to meter just how sleepless your night will be. And just the dozy, relatively silent darkness in this city. No fucking coughing. Because it always starts with a cough, just one. Then, as you will him to settle down, your quickening pulse discloses the grim revelation that you've subconsciously been waiting on it. You've been waiting for that cough as keenly as a rapacious beast in hiding marks time on its advancing prey. Then the second one, truly the worst moment, when the cloak of dread conclusively settles, your limbs start to burn, your head races. That's the point of which your anger shifts from the source of the cough to those who would assist him. Just fucking leave it, you cunts! But of course, you hear the disturbance from behind the diaphanous walls, a weary sigh, the sharp click of the light switch, the skittish footsteps. Then the voices, coughing, cooing and pleading before the grim procedure starts, the postural drainage. Doof, 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 doof. That dread rhythm of my father's big hands pounding on his thin, crooked back, insistent, even violent. Such a different sound and beat to my ma's timorous taps. Their hushed and exasperated encouragement as you try to telepathically attenuate his ragged, desperate pulls to your own tightening inhalations. I wish they would leave him in the hospital. Just keep him the fuck away. I'm never going back to that house until he's gone forever. It's so wonderful that from this haven you can forget all that and just let your mind and body dissolve into sleep. Come on, son! Up! Move it! Awakening, sore and stiff, to the gravelly voice of my father. He's standing over me, his thick brow furrowed, naked from the waist up, his chest a forest of blondie grey fur, as he brandishes a white toothbrush. It takes me 3 full seconds, each measured in an eye blink, to remember that I'm on my grandmother's couch in Cardonald. I only got to sleep a few hours ago, and it would still be pitch black except the small table lamp he's clicked on oozes a fatigued aquamarine glow across the room. But he's right, we have to go. We have to make the bus at St. Enoch Square. I know that once I get going, I'll be fine, even though I'm a little untidy. Fucking doing it again! I ken that once I get moving, I'll be fine, even though I'm a bit scruff order. And I asked to borrow Gran's iron, just to get the worst creases out of the navy Fred Perry, before I pull it over my thin, white, goose-bumped body. Dad's having none of it, but forget it, he says. Waving his toothbrush, marching to the bathroom across the hall, sadistically clicking on the overhead light as he goes, the flare burning my retina and searing my brain. It's no a fashion show. Come on! I didn't need that much encouragement. The adrenaline is leaking into me, buzzing us up. There's no way I'm missing this one. Granny Renton's up to see us off. Small, white-headed in her quilted dressing gown, but robust and ever alert, peering at us over her glasses, duffel bag in her hand. Looking at her, you'd fucking well think that Tweety Pie should be sitting in a cage in the corner. She gasps at us for a second, then makes some kind of gesture, and then she's off fussing after my dad in the hallway. I can hear her soft sing-song voice. What time's the bus go? What time? Where does it leave for? What time will you get there? Go back to your bed, mother. My dad garbles in between mouthfuls of toothpaste and spit as I take in the opportunity to pull on my clothes, my shirt, my jeans, my socks, my trainers, my jacket. I'm looking at the framed pictures of Grandad Renton on the mantelpiece. Grand's taken out the 4 medals he got in the war, including the VC, which I think was from Normandy. He wouldn't have liked him being on display like that. He kept him in an old baccy tin, and he always had to be cajoled into showing us them. Fair play to him. He told us right from the start, me and my brother Billy, that it was all fucking bullshit. That some brave men got no medals for their heroics, while wankers could get decorated for nothing. I recall one time when we were on holiday in the guest house down in Blackpool, I was pressing him. But you were brave, eh, Granda? Charging him at that beach. You must have been brave. I was scared, son, he told me, his face bloodless and somber. But most of all, I was angry at being there, really angry. I wanted to take it out on somebody and then go home. But that man had to be stopped, oh father, my dad had implored. You said so yourself. I know that. I was just angry that he was allowed to get started in the first place. The 2 pictures of Grandad Renton offer subtle contrast. In one, he's a cocky young gadge in a uniform that lends him a certain gravitas, is about to swagger off on an adventure with his mates. The other, which is older, shows him with a deep smile, but different to the other presumptuous grin. It's not exactly false, but it looks posed and hard won. My gran returns, catching me at the pictures. Perhaps she sees something in me, in profile, a hint of the past, because she sidles up to me, puts her arm round my waist and whispers, "Give the bastards hell, son." Gran smells fragrant but old, like she uses a soap that nobody washes with anymore. As my dad comes through, we prepare to leave, and she adds, "But watch yourself and look after my laddie," meaning him. It's weird that she still thinks of him that way, with him being ancient, not far off of 50. "Come on, pal, the cab's here," he says, maybe a bit abashed at her fussing as he looks through the curtains outside to the street before turning and kissing my gran on her forehead. Then she grabs my hand in a surprisingly lusty old claw. "You're the best of them, son," she whispers in urgent confidence, her brown eyes madly rimmed with high cholesterol sky blue like a cross-section gobstopper. She says this every time I've seen her since I was a bairn. And it used to make me feel great until I realised that she said that to all her grandchildren and the neighbours' kids. I'm sure she means it at the time, though. The best of them all. She releases the grip and hands Dad the duffel bag. "Dinna you be losing that thermos flask in that bag, David Renton?" she ticks. "I'll tell you, I'm going to keep an eye on it," he says sheepishly, like he's become a surly teenager again. He starts to go, but she stops him. "You're forgetting something," she says, and goes to the sideboard and produces 3 small glasses, which she proceeds to fill with whiskey. My dad rolls his eyes. "Ma!" She isn't hearing him. She raises a glass, compelling us to requite the gesture. "Although I hate whiskey, and it's the last thing I want this early in the morning." "Here's to us, wha's like us, damn few and they're all deed," she croaks, features pinching and witch-like recalcitrance. Dad knocks his one back in a winner. Gran's is already gone by a kind of osmosis. I didn't even see her put the glass to her lips. It takes me 2 retching gulps to get the rancid crap down. "Come on, son, you're a Renton," she shouts. Then Dad nods to me, and we're off. She's an awful woman. he says with irksome affection as we climb into the big black taxi, my stomach burning. I wave at her small figure, standing in the doorway in the murky street, willing the daft old back to get back inside into the warm. Glasgow. That was how we learnt to spell it at primary school. Granny likes a small glass of whiskey. Thanks for listening, folks. That'll do me.
Is that really the way they taught you to pronounce Glasgow? Grandma like.
Yes, it was. We got taught that at school. Glasgow was Granny likes a small glass of whiskey. And Edinburgh was Edward died in November, buried under Robert Graham's house. So we had no excuse for not learning to spell the names of the two cities in Scotland, but many of us still couldn't do it after that.
Sí, esa fue la forma en que me enseñaron a escribir Glasgow. A la abuela le gustaba tomar un poco de whisky y también en Edimburgo nos enseñaron otra forma de decirlo.
It was another.
Sí, es Edward
died in November.
Edward murió en
buried
noviembre.
under Robert Graham's house.
Edward murió en noviembre enterrado debajo de él, buried under
Robert Graham's house.
Robert Graham's house, bajo la
And
casa de Robert Graham.
I don't actually know if that's true or not, but that's what we were taught.
No sé si fue cierto o no, pero así fue como nos enseñaron.
Bien, la charla, pensamos Fausto y yo abrirla. We decided, I'm going to speak in English, then he translates, and let Mr. Irvine think the answer.
Él va a hablar, yo voy a hablar en inglés y luego, por favor, déjenlo pensar la pregunta.
Eso. First thing we're going to do, we're going to read a very brief quote from Skag Boys.
Lo primero que vamos a hacer es leer una parte muy pequeña de Skag Boys.
Very, very brief.
Muy, muy corta.
First, I read it in English, then Fausto reads it in Spanish, and then we start talking with Mr. Welsh.
Yo la leeré en inglés y él la leerá en español.
Analyzing novels meant ripping out their soul, and it destroyed my enjoyment of them. I could not allow myself to be trained to think that way. Only by refusing to study literature was I able to maintain my passion for it.
Analizar novelas suponía arrancarles el alma y destruir el placer que me proporcionaban. No podía permitir que me formaran para pensar de esa manera. Solo negándome a estudiar literatura, pude conservar mi pasión por la lectura.
So what the hell do we do now, Mr. Welsh?
¿Y qué diablos hace ahora, señor Welsh?
Yeah, I mean, I think what was going through my mind when I wrote that was, I mean, always if anybody says to me, I want to be a writer, the first thing I do is tell them, don't study English or English literature. For fuck's sake, don't do it. You know, study something like engineering or politics or economics or something. You know, give yourself, you know, because you're not going to gain writing skills from studying literature. All you're going to do is you're going to learn how bad a writer you are, and it's going to demotivate you. So you shouldn't do that. You should basically kind of learn different subjects, and then I mean everybody can pick up the nuts and bolts of language, the grammar and vocabulary and all that stuff. And I think that and everybody should, if you're a writer, you should be reading anyway. You know, and you don't want you want to enjoy books. You don't want them to be kind of to be ripped apart and analysed in that way. I think, you know, that's the first thing you do. And I know countless English literature students who've said to me that I stopped reading novels after I did that course because I completely lost interest in them, because it's like I just looked at them in such an analytical way that I couldn't enjoy them anymore.
Lo hice, bueno, lo que me pasaba cuando yo escribía eso, lo que pasaba por mi mente es que yo quería ser escritor, pero no quería aprender inglés. Yo decía, la gente padre no aprende gramática. Lo que un escritor debe hacer es aprender cosas y no aprender gramática. Lo que yo quería en ese momento era disfrutar de la escritura. Cuando en esos días paré de leer novelas porque no me gustaba analizarlas.
Sí, bueno,
It's like saying, you know, kind of, don't watch pornography, just have sex instead.
No veas pornografía, solo ten sexo, me decía en esos días.
bueno, nada más, y dijo también que cualquier persona que le dice quiero ser escritor, lo primero que le dice es no estudies inglés. O bueno, en este caso no estudies literatura, pues no estudies literatura porque eso te va a arruinar. Bien, Fausto.
Okay, I want to analyze a lot of things of the novel. I don't know where to start, but maybe one of the things that grabbed my attention was the characters. There's a lot of darkness in the characters, so I was like reading it to find some light in them. But every time that Renton has like a little light in the conscious, it fade away. So it's like very, I don't know. I love it. I love the novel. But what about the light? Where is it?
Ok, yo quiero analizar un poco de la novela, analizar a los caracteres, porque encontré mucha oscuridad en la novela y yo quería encontrar la luz en todo esto. Cada vez que aparece un poco de conciencia, los personajes se desvanecen. ¿Por qué sucede esto?
I think, in a sense, that, you know, the light is about people surviving. I mean, the books aren't really about drugs as such. They're about friendship, basically, and they're about the things that people do for each other. They kind of, you know, they do actually kind of help each other without making a big fuss about it. There's no big declarations of kind of sort of, you know, of love or you're my best friend or all that kind of stuff. But they actually do, when it comes down to it, they will kind of look out for each other, even though they're also trying to do each other down. I mean, I kind of like writing about the darkness because what I feel about life is that, I mean, life to me is about failure, basically. It's all about, and the failure is much more interesting than success because failure comes in all these different forms and success only comes in one form and it's pretty boring, really. And it's also boring. I like to get people when they're having a bad time. I mean, these guys are having a really bad time in this book, but if everything's going okay, what have you got? You've got, like, Mark goes into his job, he works hard, he goes home, he has his tea, he goes to meets his mates, they have a few pints, they go home, they go to sleep, he gets up the next day, goes to work. It's not interesting at all, you know, you have to have things going wrong, basically, you know, and things go wrong when when the economy tanks, all the employment goes, the community starts to crumble, the families feel the pressure, the individuals feel the pressure, the streets are flooded with heroin. I mean, everything's going wrong big time, basically, you know, and everything's been going wrong kind of big time in our world, basically, for the last kind of 30, 40 odd years. You know, it's been a sort of, it's been an ongoing kind of process. So to kind of, you know, when you write about where these things are really happening and really affecting people, you have to be honest with it. You have to go into that kind of, that level of darkness in the individual and in the society, but right in the kind of soul in the individual, right in the transactions that they have with other people. But you also crucially have to show the consequences of that. And I think that's the morality of being a writer, really, is to show the consequences of bad behavior, not just show the bad behavior. I'm sorry about that, mate.
Atájate ese penalti.
Yo escribí esta novela para sobrevivir. Es una novela sobre la amistad. Yo quería ayudar a mucha gente a cuidarse por sí misma. La oscuridad tiene mucho de interesante porque el éxito no se puede contar bien. El mal tiempo, en cambio, sí da mucho de qué decir. Si te va bien, si todo te ha ido bien, vas por unas cervezas, compras unas cosas, es todo un poco aburrido. En cambio, si las cosas se ponen mal, hay mucho más que decir y de repente la diversión te causa depresión y en cambio la heroína lo que te da es un gran placer. Las cosas te afectan y si yo quiero ser un escritor sincero, tengo que ser un escritor honesto y tengo que escribir sobre la oscuridad y sobre las consecuencias de esta oscuridad y esa es la moralidad que debe haber en un escritor.
Okay, life failure is much more interesting. And I do agree, but you're very successful. How do you deal with that?
I'm sorry.
La tristeza es muy... El fracaso es muy interesante, pero tú eres muy famoso. ¿Cómo te va con eso?
Yeah, it can be a bit embarrassing. It's like it's only since, in my defence, it's only since I've started writing that I've been successful, and I failed at everything before then. Everything I did, I failed at. I either wasn't good at the things I liked. You know, the things that I always loved. I loved sport. I loved playing football. I loved boxing, and I was terrible at them both. But I did them with enthusiasm. You know, and if you love football and you can't play football, because it's a team sport, you're going to get ridiculed. You know, if you love boxing and you're not very good at boxing, you're going to get your face punched, basically. So all of these things were kind of the things that I really liked were I liked painting, and I liked music, and I liked writing, and I kind of I'm not great at painting or drawing. I'm very passionate about art, but I'm not very good at doing it. And I'm not very good at music. I've played guitar in terrible bands for years, and I've played bass, and and I've never would never have made it as a musician. DJ'd for years. He wasn't even very good at that, and anybody can DJ, especially now. So I wasn't, so I was almost frightened to try writing because I thought I was going to fail miserably. But I was spectacularly successful with the first book. I thought something's going on here.
Bueno, es muy penoso, pero debo decir algo en mi defensa. Lo primero es que me gustan muchísimo los deportes, me gusta el fútbol y el box, y en ambos fracasé. Cuando no eres bueno en el fútbol resultas ridículo, pero cuando no eres bueno en el box te rompen la cara. También me gusta muchísimo pintar, me gusta muchísimo la música, tocaba la guitarra en un instrumento, he sido DJ y en todas ellas fracasé. Hasta ese momento decidí escribir, fue entonces cuando decidí escribir, y para mi sorpresa tuve mucho éxito. Y dije, ¿qué hice mal?
You said the novel is about friendship, right? But the characters have a very weird way of showing their friendship, right? I mean, they're always suspicious about the other, and they're about a bunch of pricks every time.
There's a lot of when I take friends, even like from down in England or over in Ireland, I take them up to Scotland, or friends from America, I take them over to Scotland. They're surprised how nice people are to them, but how horrible people are to each other, And it's like, you go into the pub, you go into the pub and it's like, what the fuck are you doing, you bastard? Fuck you, And it's like, but it's very much the culture to do that. The aggression is very superficial, and people see that and they think this is kind of this is dodgy. This is a kind of room full of psychopaths. But basically, it's just a bit. It's a kind of banter thing, and I think there's a lot of when you try to get that into literature, it doesn't always come across, but a lot of it is very kind of people need to create compelling drama when there's nothing going on. And I think that the kind of superficial antagonism is about that. It's about kind of creating compelling drama. And it's very much, Scotland's very much got a kind of, there's a very Celtic oral storytelling tradition. Everybody's great oral storytellers. And but it's not done in a formalized way, and it's done in this very ritualized, kind of combative type of way.
Ok, primero va la pregunta. Tu libro, dices que tu libro es sobre la amistad, pero es una amistad muy extraña porque siempre los amigos parecen sospechar entre ellos. Y la respuesta es una amistad muy particular la que hay en Escocia, no es ni con Inglaterra ni con otros lugares del mundo. Me daba cuenta que entre ellos pueden ser muy, muy amables hasta hacia el mundo, pero entre ellos pueden ser muy groseros. En la literatura necesitas contar siempre un drama, y en Escocia no necesitas inventar nada porque es un lugar muy cáustico.
You begin the novel Skag Boys with a quote from Margaret Thatcher. It says, "There's no such thing as society," and but in Trainspotting, Renton says, "There was no such thing as society, and even if there was, I most certainly had nothing to do with it. For the first time in my life, I was almost content." Are you contradicting yourself in that?
Not at all. I mean, I think...
Can you
Tú comienzas tu novela con una cita de Margaret Thatcher que era...
la sociedad no existe.
La sociedad no existe. Y tú dices...
Pero Renton dice, no, la sociedad no existe, o no existía, y si existía, yo no formaba parte de ella. Por primera vez en mi vida me sentía casi feliz.
Well, I mean, no, because Thatcher kind of, for all her faults, and she was the most vile, poisonous kind of human being you could imagine, she had an honesty, and she actually kind of, when she said there was no such thing as society, that, you know, that was her job, was to wreck and destroy society, and that was what she was trying to do. Basically, you know, now you have somebody like Cameron who says, "Oh, we're all in this together." So it's all kind of smart, and he believes there's no such thing as society either. You know, he's trying to wreck it even more than she did. And but it's all smarmy kind of hype and PR kind of stuff. But I think Renton and Sick Boy and all the characters are very much a kind of child of the Thatcher years. You know, and they've absorbed that kind of nihilism, and you know, and basically, you know, in their way, it's a kind of. It's not a kind of establishment kind of sort of crushing the working classes kind of sort of nihilism. It's more of a punk rock, like fuck them all, fuck society, you know, that sort of nihilism. And but very much every, you know, the hardest thing for the punk rock generation in Britain to admit is that they are very much Thatcher's children in so many ways.
Okay, Thatcher fue una persona muy venenosa, como ustedes no pueden imaginar. Honestamente fue terrible. Ella intentó destruir la sociedad, pero nosotros, el grupo que estaba ahí, la generación de punk rock, dijimos, estamos juntos, nos conocemos desde que somos jóvenes y básicamente intentamos luchar en contra de ese establishment y decir a la chingada todo, y nuestra generación de punk rock vivió con esa consigna.
So Renton, when he says that in
Can I just tell a little Thatcher story? I've only been in the same room as Thatcher once, and it was in the Dorchester Hotel in London, which is a really, really posh hotel. And this friend of mine had come into some money, and he goes, we've been up all night, we've been at this nightclub dancing, and we're full of ecstasy, and we're just ripped off our tits, basically. So we went to this nightclub. We decided we'd go for the poshest breakfast. I don't know why, because we couldn't eat anything. We were all kind of pulled up. And we went there, and Thatcher was there, sitting at a table on her own, basically. And she had a couple of bodyguards. And apparently she goes there every day. And normally you would just think, you would start ripping the piss out of her. But we actually felt sorry for her. But that's what comes of when you believe there's no such thing as society. Society reciprocates. And she basically died alone, kind of eating bits of newspaper in her apartment in West London.
Me gustaría contar una historia sobre esto. Una vez estaba en un hotel muy lujoso en Londres y bueno, la noche anterior me había ido a un nightclub y me había dormido muy tarde y no sé por qué me paré al desayuno, no podía comer nada y de repente entró Margaret Thatcher con unos guardaespaldas y en ese momento sentí algo de pena por ella porque justamente al decir que no existía la sociedad la había expulsado a ella misma.
Is there someone to blame about the decisions the characters made along the story? Do you think, for example, I don't know, the politics of Margaret Thatcher, or maybe just themselves?
¿Hay entre los personajes a alguien a que culpar? Quizás a Margaret Thatcher o quizás entre ellos.
I think I think what happened is that, we're all to blame really because we made choices as a society in Britain, particularly in the 80s, that we're still living off, from the ramifications of them now. We decided that we would basically kind of let the super rich take control of the economy, and that everybody else would pay for that. And that's what's been happening ever since. And now, the country, Britain, is practically bankrupt, and the only people who are doing really well are the super rich. So we made that decision as a society, and since then they've set up the structures which make it very hard to kind of, democracy has almost been negated. It's basically only a kind of paper thing. And that's why there's so much hatred towards the main parties, the three main parties, the ruling parties. So I think we're all to blame, but within the context of these characters, you can see different reasons. I mean, the character of Matty was obviously undiagnosed depression of some sort, some anxiety issues. The character of Alison was suffering from bereavement, and she was self-medicating for the pain of that. The character of Spud was kind of the archetypal character who lost his job in manual labour, who would never get another one, basically. So there's nothing for him except heroin. With Renton and Sick Boy, it's a bit more complicated. It's the symbiotic relationship that they have, that kind of folie à deux. Probably neither would have been junkies if they hadn't met each other.
Okay, creo que hay diferentes formas de culpar a lo que sucedió, porque nosotros tomamos las opciones que había. Por un lado estaba hacer dinero, y por el otro lo opuesto, que se convirtió en convertirte en un vagabundo. En Inglaterra hay estructuras muy básicas que tuvimos la posibilidad tuvieron la posibilidad de escoger, mientras para nosotros la democracia se quedó en el papel, y eso nos causó muchísimo odio. En cuanto a entonces por ese lado somos todos culpables. En cuanto a las diferentes razones de los personajes, creo que Marty él mismo traía sus demonios, se sentía culpable. Spot se sentía culpable porque perdió su trabajo. El caso de Renton y Sick era mucho más complicado porque habían perdido su vida de una forma tontamente, quizás al volverse drogadictos.
A few pages after what you just read, Mark goes to a demonstration with his father, and in the demonstration there's police brutality. They attack him, they hurt his back forever. Did you know that when and this goes somewhere else? The question actually is, when did you know that Mark Renton's back was hurt when you wrote Trainspotting and when you wrote porn or things like that? I don't know.
No, it didn't. I mean, I thought it would be interesting to have that thing happen to him, so that you could either think this is a reason why he's gone on to heroin for pain medication, or it's an excuse. Oh, my back. My back.
Okay, ¿sabías, poco después de lo que leíste, Mark Renton va a una manifestación y ahí son atacados brutalmente? ¿Tú cuando escribiste Trainspotting o Porn, sabías que Mark Renton había sufrido esa agresión? Dice, simplemente me pareció interesante porque la heroína era una medicina y pues había una razón para tomarla. O un pretexto para tomarla.
Because the characters have become so... what happened when Fausto and I were reading the novel, we called each other all the time, and where are you going? Did Sick Boy already do this? Did Renton already? It was like living, I mean, it's obvious in good writing, but it was like we were talking about real people.
Yes.
Very
real people.
Very real people, and we were very worried about them. And it was like, what the hell? What are they? What is he's got a beautiful girlfriend and he's gonna throw it all away because of heroin.
What's shocking?
Yeah,
oh my God, no.
We were horrified all the time, and but when did you know that these characters that you created 20 years ago, more than 20 years, we're going to give you for 3 novels or maybe more? How does that happen to an author?
Okay, ¿qué pasa con los personajes? Cuando Fausto y yo estábamos leyendo la novela, nos llamábamos el uno al otro para decir, ¿qué están haciendo? ¿Qué es lo que les pasa? ¿A dónde van? son muy, muy reales. En el caso de Sick Boy o Mark Renton, tienen novias increíbles y todo lo mandan al carajo. ¿Cómo supiste lo que ibas a hacer en estas 3 novelas con ellos?
It doesn't really happen in that kind of way. I mean, that you kind of think that there's another novel for these characters now. What happened? The way I see characters is when you write a lot of novels, you've written all these characters, and they basically become like characters. To me, are like a kind of a certain, they're like a bunch of tools in a writer's toolbox. And if you've got a certain theme that you want to explore, you kind of look and see what you've already got there. And it's like, and then you kind of think, well, I've not got somebody that's going to tell this story. I mean, the latest book I've got out in the UK that's coming out in the States in February is it's 2 characters, 2 female characters, young female American characters, who one is a fitness trainer and one is an artist. And I just wanted to write about body issues and kind of the obesity culture and all that. And I didn't have the tools to do that, so I had to make these 2 new tools that would help me tell the story. And it's like very much the same way with the Trainspotting characters. It's like when I wrote Porno, originally wrote this guy. His name was Steve, and he had the girlfriend Nikki. And I realised when I got into it that Steve was actually Sick Boy. It was just Sick Boy that was older. He had gate crashed into the book because he was the best character to tell that story. And once I'd told the story of Sick Boy, I had to work out what the other characters were doing, because you couldn't really say what Sick Boy was doing without the other characters. So it became a sequel without meaning to be a sequel. With Skag Boys, it was I wanted to write a story about the changes in the 80s that affected society as it is now, about the transfer from an employment economy to a kind of a drug economy, really. And I thought, well, who better to tell that story than the characters that are already there and were already messed up by the time we met them in Trainspotting. So that book became about, not like Trainspotting was how did they get off heroin? How did they get off heroin? This book was about how did they get on it in the first place. So you don't really think about it in terms of how much leverage you can get. But I'm still interested in these characters. I still write them. I still write other characters from other books that I've done. And if the opportunity comes that I want to address something, I'll use them again.
¿Qué pasa con las novelas? En realidad los personajes son herramientas. Te sirven para saber qué es lo que quieres hacer, explorar las partes que quieres explorar de la vida. Por ejemplo, en Gran Bretaña en febrero va a salir una historia sobre 2 mujeres. Tengo 2 herramientas nuevas que explorar. De la misma forma, Porno comenzó con Steve y Nicky, y de repente me di cuenta que Steve era Sick Boy. Por otro lado, cuando quería escribir Skag Boys, quería narrar algo de cómo habían sucedido las cosas en los 80s, y me di cuenta que tenía las herramientas de Trainspotting para hacerlo, porque Trainspotting quizás sea el desmadre, pero Skag Boys es la forma en que ellos se metieron en la heroína. Entonces, los personajes son herramientas que tienes que utilizar para explorar en las novelas.
I'm very fond of all the characters of the novel, but I think a lot of them are a bunch of pricks, fucking pricks, right? And the question is, who's your favorite prick and why?
Me río mucho con los personajes de la novela. Creo que son unos cabrones, que todos son malos, pero ¿cuál es tu favorito de ellos?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of... I don't really have... I suppose if you ask which ones I like best, I would say maybe Spud, because he's the lovable loser, and everybody likes a lovable loser. I kind of liked, in Skag Boys, I liked Alison a lot as a character. She was very much a kind of bit part player in Trainspotting, but I very much liked her as a character, and because she was kind of... she was really overwhelmed by grief, but she was trying hard to kind of to sort of fight her way through it. I mean, I think that it's always. I mean, sometimes it's like sometimes you pick friends that you feel comfortable with, other times that you pick friends because they're interesting and you're going to have some strange and kind of crazy adventures with them. And I think it's the same with characters, that you're right, you know, you kind of, you don't always pick the characters that you feel comfortable with, but you pick the ones that are going to interest you, are going to lead you somewhere that's going to be interesting.
Ok, creo que todos son personajes de Late y quizás sea Spud con el que más me identifique porque es un perdedor. Sobre los personajes tú tienes amigos incluso que pueden ser cabrones y no sabes bien por qué son tus amigos. Con los personajes pasa lo mismo, son personajes que son cabrones y aún así sigues con ellos.
A lot of people first saw the movie Trainspotting, and then after they read the other two novels, they put Ewan McGregor's face on Renton's as Renton's face, and Mickey Forrester is you, and and do you how do you feel about that? And when you're writing, what happens with that? You know, they do have a face. Yeah. When I started reading Skag Boys, then Ewan McGregor went away, but at first it was him, if you know what I mean.
Cuando mucha gente primero vio la película que la novela, los personajes, Ewan McGregor ocupa el lugar de Renton, Michael French, el lugar, Mickey Forrest, el lugar de tuyo. Cuando escribes, ¿qué pasa en tu mente? Los personajes ya tienen rostro. Ahora que comencé a leer Skag Boys, desde el primer momento Renton ya era Ewan McGregor. ¿Cómo tomas eso?
Well, first I have to say that as an actor, I am not Mickey Forrester. Mickey Forrester is just one of the many myriad characters that I've created from a repertoire as an actor. So, you know, it's kind of... and how I never got the fucking Oscar as Best Support Actor for that, I don't know. I mean, it's like... and they say these things aren't fixed as well. Don't believe a word of it, like, you know. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's the film is such a powerful medium that when you see someone on the screen, even theatre, if you see an actor playing one of your characters on stage, it has that effect of you not being able to see the characters in the way you've described them. When I went to write porno and I went to write Skag Boys, I had to go back to Trainspotting, the book, and reread it to get my original sense of the characters, because I had Ewan McGregor and Bobby Carlyle and all that in my head. And Bobby Carlyle in particular looks very, very different from the Begbie that I'd kind of imagined and envisaged. So you have to go back to the kind of to the basic kind of look about who they are and all that. And it's very difficult sometimes to do that because, as I say, film is such a strong medium, and the writer's mind gets kind of colonized by these images as much as anybody else's.
Ok, cuando escribí Skag Boys o cuando escribí porno, tuve que regresar a leer regresar a leer Trainspotting, porque los medios son muy poderosos. Incluso en el teatro, cuando ves a un actor, siempre te quedas con su personaje. Tuve que regresar a leer Trainspotting para entender en verdad el sentido de los personajes, para saber quiénes son.
Bien. Última pregunta, yo creo.
Sí, última está bien. Where is the Skag Boys generation? I'm not referring this as the characters of the book. I mean your generation. Do you think you guys did well? Just survive? What could you say about it?
I think...
¿Dónde está la generación de Skag Boys? No solamente los personajes. ¿Dónde está tu generación? ¿Lo hicieron bien? ¿Sobrevivieron? ¿Cuál fue su destino?
I think our generation have been very, very lucky comparatively. I mean, not all of us, obviously, but it's the generations behind us. The kids coming through now that I think have had a terrible deal. You know, it's like the punk generation have kind of done okay, but because we still had the after effects of the post-war boom and the kind of and there was opportunities. I mean, I got a degree at university, paid for by the state, a full grant, and I didn't pay a penny. My parents didn't pay a penny towards me getting a higher education. And then I went to, I got a master's degree from an employer. I got sent to a university part-time, and my employer paid all my fees and all that. That would never happen to anybody now. There's nothing. The kids now have been left with absolutely nothing. So it's the younger generations that I feel for, rather than kind of, in the UK in particular, rather than my generation.
Yo me tengo que considerar, antes que nada, con suerte como miembro de mi generación, pero creo que ha sido peor para las generaciones que han venido detrás de nosotros. Nosotros, la generación del punk, tuvimos unas oportunidades. Después de nosotros, ir a la universidad cada vez se volvió mucho más difícil. Tener un empleo cada vez se volvió mucho más difícil. Los jóvenes, las generaciones jóvenes, son bastante desgraciadas, sobre todo en el Reino Unido.
Sí, bueno, dice además que la universidad, sus padres no tuvieron que pagar un centavo y eso ahora no ocurre. I said last question, but I cannot end this without asking you. I think I know the answer, but did you vote, and how did you vote about Scotland's independence from the Commonwealth? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Dije que era la última pregunta, pero tengo que hacerte esta pregunta. Sé la respuesta, pero aún así, dentro de las últimas elecciones que hubo en Escocia para ver si se podían liberar del Reino Unido, ¿tú votaste? ¿Qué fue lo que votaste?
Well, firstly, apologies to anybody who follows me on Twitter, because you'll be bored shitless with what I'm going to say. But yeah, I supported. Yes, I supported independence in the referendum, and it was over, and I was taking part in some debates, and to me it was just basically that the UK kind of was. Hasn't really got anything left to offer Scotland now. It's the UK was founded to sort of it was set up to facilitate imperial growth. It was set up to facilitate an industrial society, which is all gone. It was sustained by the esprit de corps of 2 world wars, which is now all gone, and it's kind of in the welfare state that was created in the aftermath of that, which is now all gone, basically. So there isn't a lot holding it together, and I think any society needs that kind of glue to hold it together. All that's happening is it's a warehouse economy, and it only really benefits one area of Britain, which is the southeast of England. That's where all the money is flowing. And when you have a unitary system of government, you have that very much exacerbated. And because the majority of the population is there, nobody's in the mood to change it. So to me, it's like it's pretty much inevitable that the only thing that's holding Scotland to the Union now is the over 65 generation who remember the post-war affluence. And it's quite a lot of them because of the demographics of the country. A lot of younger people go away to get work, so the majority of people are over 65, but they're getting older, and within a generation they won't be around. And the whole narrative in Scottish politics now is about independence. So I think it's pretty much inevitable.
Okay, bueno, yo tengo que decir que voté en contra del referéndum. Para mí, la Unión Reino Unido dejó de funcionar y no tiene nada que ofrecer a Inglaterra. Por supuesto que la sociedad necesita una ley, pero nosotros no necesitamos esa. La economía del Reino Unido todo se lo da le da la mayor parte del porcentaje del dinero hacia sí mismos, y también me doy cuenta que los jóvenes están yendo de Escocia. Ahora la mayor parte de la gente, la que se quedó, tiene 65 años y los jóvenes se han ido. Quizás en algún tiempo irás y ya no habrá muchos jóvenes.
Paola Tinoco, que prosigue. ¿Estás por ahí, Paola? Paola Tinoco de Anagrama, estás ahí atrás. ¿Qué prosigue? Pégame un grito, Sandía. Está incomunicada. ¿Hacemos esto o no lo hacemos?
Tres.
3 preguntas del público, por favor, para el señor Irvine Welsh. ¿Alguien tiene una pregunta? 3, así que si alguien tiene una pregunta inteligentísima que hacerle al señor Irvine Welsh. 3 questions from the audience, just 3. Okay. ¿Quién?
El que está haciendo el signo del...
Okay.
Well, first of all, it's an honor being here, and I really and the question, just cut to the chase, is that as a reader, I've had a very special relationship with the language because it's also in dialect, and the characters, each one has its distinct characteristics, and for you, that relationship as a writer and as the creator, where does it come from? For all the body of work, Glue especially, I liked a lot, and I think it's more structured. And
yeah, I mean, I think it's like anything else in writing. It's just a matter of chipping away at it. There's no great kind. You might hear something. You may hear phrases, and you may pick up dialect, and you may pick up characteristics, but you just chop away at them until you get them right. I mean, there's no mystery about it. It's just solid, kind of quite boring, repetitive, hard work until it starts to read the way you want it to.
Okay. Es como cualquier cosa en la escritura. Cualquier cosa que es cuestión de que tomas muchas cosas para escribir, escuchas una cosa, diferentes dialectos y te subes en ellos. No hay otra historia detrás de ellos que simplemente quería meterme en envolverme en esos dialectos.
La chica de aquí de la tercera fila. ¿O no fui yo? Fue el autor.
Yo no veo nada. A mí ni me vean, no veo nada.
Hi. So I have this question. In Skag Boys, we get to see them in their early 20s. Then Trainspotting in their mid-20s. And we have Porno in their mid-30s. Will there be a mid-40s, mid-50s?
Oh,
Where are they now?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the problem is that you find about kind of sort of about getting groups of people, about getting gangs, basically, which they were in a way, getting them back together. It becomes increasingly improbable the older people get that they're all going to be together. You know, you can't imagine. I can't imagine a scenario whereby these guys would be together again. Not all of them. You know, you might have a couple of them. You know, I've written a few stories about 1 or 2 of them being together and having different adventures and all that. But the 4 of them and maybe some of the surrounding people, it's very, very hard to see them going back, being all together again.
El problema de que el problema es que no puedo imaginarlos a todos juntos otra vez. Puedo imaginarlos juntos a 2 o 3, pero a los 4 ya no puedo imaginarlos.
Fue un haiku de la respuesta, pero la esencia estaba ahí, perdónenme.
Anybody from the back. A cualquiera de atrás. Ahí.
Thank you. Hi. Well, I want to ask you, do you have any routine for writing, or have you developed like anything you do, you strictly have to do in order to get in that creative environment in order to start writing?
No, I'm quite lucky that I can write anywhere, and I can write in airports and hotels, and I can write in coffee shops, and I can write on public transport and all that sort of stuff. But I think that there's 2 types. You know, there's 2 things that you can. There's 2 ways that you write, basically, and I think when you start off gathering the information and getting the first draft together, to me, as much chaos is great. You know, going out to coffee shops, having loud music on and all that, and getting inspired by that. It's fantastic. You know, you get something down. Then the second phase is it's different. You need complete quiet, and you have to go away and put all that together, basically, and put it in the form of a book, and sort of hack it into something. So there's basically these two phases. You know, I'm going from one to the other. And one is being outside and being around people and doing stuff and all that, and getting physical descriptions of people from public transport, from the bus and all that. The other one is being away and being very kind of hermit-like up in my office and sitting there for days on end and without washing and being dirty, and the wife coming and saying, "Look, get in the shower, you're stinking the whole house out, and we've got friends coming today, and talk to them when they come for dinner. Speak to them. Don't speak to your imaginary friends up in your office. Like, speak to some real people." And I'll sit there going. So it's like there's the two sides of it. One side is very fun, and the other side is a bit like madness, really, when you're locked away on your own.
Soy una persona con mucha suerte porque puedo escribir en todos lados, puedo irme a cafés, a restaurantes, puedo escribir en los aeropuertos, en todos lados, pero en realidad hay dos cosas que tienes que hacer, hay dos formas de escribir las novelas. La primera es cuando tú estás juntando el material para ella, puedes ir a todos lados. Este caos a mí me funciona mucho, el ver a gente, inspirarme en todo lo que me pueda contagiar. Y en la segunda necesito mucho silencio, es cuando me siento a escribir el libro. Yo paso de una a otra con facilidad y cuando estés escribiendo una novela tienes que estar hablando con gente real, no hables con gente imaginaria.
Ya nos quitaron el micro,
Damas y caballeros, okay. Bill Hillman. Leímos un fragmento de El viejo vecindario, The Old Neighborhood, lo pueden conseguir en inglés.
Y así como lo ven es muy mexicano, ahí tiene su esposa es de aquí, de esta ciudad, y él vivió mucho tiempo aquí, entonces le entra a los tacos, pues.
Sí, señor. Y el legendario Irvine Welsh.
Thank you, and let's hear it for these guys too, and not forgetting the translator. And once again from my old pal Bill Hillman there. Thank you very much for coming along. Cheers.
Muchísimas gracias por venir. Como el Museo Universitario del Chopo, les agradecemos su visita.